Today we're going to look at the Zhiyun Smooth 4. This is a 3-axis smartphone stabilizer. It basically turns your mobile phone into a Steadicam, and this thing works amazing. We're going to take a look at it, set it up, and I'm going to take it out and take some shots with it. Check it out. Now, I've wanted one of these camera stabilizers for years, but they've always been very expensive, and then Banggood came out with one that's a very good price. I thought, this is almost too good to be true, but I'm going to try this out. I'm going to mount my Samsung Galaxy S9 camera or phone to it and use it as a camera, and let's just see what it does. And I'm going to open it. We're going to open it together, and I'm going to set up my phone with it, and we'll take it out and try some test shots with it and see how this performs. So this is the first time I've opened this up. As you can see, removing the factory seal. I've never used one of these gimbals before, so this will be a learning experience for me too. I've used Steadicam Juniors before, a long time ago, and I tell you right now, they were a pain in the butt to use to set up because they all required, those were all fully balanced systems, and they required everything to be perfectly balanced, and you couldn't use them out even in the slightest wind because that would upset the balance, and they're really not an easy unit to work. You had to plan every shot with them in advance, and everything, you know, you couldn't use Steadicam Junior for run and gun filmmaking because there were so many variables that came into play that you had to account for. So it looks like we've got a service card and instructions that we'll have to read, but let's take a look at the unit itself. The first thing you'll notice is that this is actually its carry case, so you can pack it away in the styrofoam case for shipping and transport and even storage, and for that matter put it back into the box for storage when you're not using it. So I would advise hanging onto the box, but the actual styrofoam case here will make a nice carry case and travel case for it because it will protect the unit from accidental damage. On these gimbal units, how they operate is they have a series of motors. So there's 3 motors that control the operation of it, and what they do is the motors operate with gyros to remove any shake and vibration for when you're walking around doing handheld shooting with your camera. In this case, this one's designed for smartphones. Take it out of travel mode, just unlock it by pressing the center gimbal, the center motor. So basically what this does is this will hold your camera. Your camera can sit either in the portrait or the landscape orientation, and how it works is as you're moving, walking with the camera, the motors will operate to keep your camera level no matter what you're doing with the control. If you're running with it, this will automatically compensate for any movement, and it will keep your camera still. First thing I need to do is because it uses power, I have to charge up or put batteries in it. I haven't even looked at the instructions yet, but looking at this, it's got a USB-C port on the side. I'm going to say that it has a built-in battery. Let's look at the manual here, and I'll get the unit charged up so that it's ready to go. So here's the quick start guide. Let's read the quick start guide. And it looks like I'll have to download an app on my phone as well for it, obviously to control the camera. And it's got a bunch of QR codes. Oh, I like this. The complete manual. It says, reading complete manual. For environmental protection purposes, the paper user's guide is not provided with the product. So they want me to download the manual and read the manual. But I have to connect it to a USB power port using the power cord in the package, and then we're going to charge it up. And it looks like for starters, I'm going to connect it to the tripod. There's a little tripod here. That's to, I guess, allow me to set it up and balance everything. And so let's get the tripod mounted on this unit first, and I'll get the battery charging. Once the battery's charged, then we can play around with it and see how it works. So the tripod just spins onto the bottom. That'll hold the unit up out of the way for mounting the camera or mounting the phone and working on it. Uses a USB-C connector. There we go. Unit is now charging. I like this. Note on Android compatibility issues with ZY Play. The filming performance on Smooth 4 is essentially related to the mobile phone, and the realizations of its functions varies with mobile phones used. Due to the current limitations of Android phones, really? Android users have not yet accessed all the features of the ZY Play. But right now, it supports Android 5.0 or later, while I'm running Android 9 on my phone. So it looks like it supports Google Pixel 2, Pixel 2 XL, Google Pixel and Pixel XL, Google Nexus, Nexus 6P, Nexus 5X, Samsung S8, S8 Plus, S7, S7 Edge, S6, S6 Edge, S5, Samsung Note 8, and Samsung Note 7. I have a Samsung S9. I'm sure it will be compatible with that as well. I've downloaded the app on my phone. I've got it ready to go. I'm going to attach the phone to the device. So I do that by just opening up the clip and sliding my phone down all the way. Like that. That'll hold my phone in place. And I guess I should turn it on and connect to the device. So I'll click connect to device. And I got to turn this thing on by pressing the power button for 2 seconds. I have not read any instructions yet, so this is what I'm connecting to. So I found the unit, Smooth 40429. I'm going to click there. It's connecting by Bluetooth to the device. And now it's turned on my camera. And if there we go. It is now ready to go. It's now turning my camera. If I turn it where I want it to be. Oh, look at that. It even tells me. It even controls my white balance. Oh, control my zoom. This is going to be fun. Get a zoom control here. And what does this button do? I have to learn all these features. What does that one do? Change to autofocus. Change to WT. Okay, manual focus. That's cool. I can control the focus of my camera manually. That is pretty wild. And I hit this button again here to go back to now. Okay, so that's change to focus for close up or for distance. That's this button here. And when I press it again, it's WT, that's wide telephoto. So that's your telephoto control on there. Wonder what this button does. Menu. Ah! Well, isn't that something? Resolution. I can change the resolution of my camera. Go right up to 4K 60 frames per second. I'll shoot this at 1080p 60 frames. And what that one is for. Scene detect, walking and motion. Okay. Settings, video quality. Excellent. Image stabilization is on. You notice this, eh? As I move this mount, the camera stays exactly where it was. It's pretty slick. My camera is not quite straight in this thing. Maybe I just have to adjust it. There, now it is. What's the next setting here? Set. That's part of my video quality grid. Okay, so this gives me my overlay. Center point will give me a dot in the middle of the screen, or grid will give me a grid like that on the screen so that I can frame things up. General settings. To go back. Back to menu. This changes my camera settings. For my default camera setting. That brings on my display. That takes a snapshot. And I guess this red button here is movie. So now I'm recording. I got 35 gigabytes. Let's take this thing out and have some fun with it. Pull the power button off. So now I'm recording. I got 35 gigabytes. Let's take this thing out and have some fun with it. Now keep in mind, these are the first shots I've taken off this camera. Walk with this thing. I've never used one of these gimbals before. I have not read the instructions. I just turned the camera on, have done nothing other than hit the record button. So these are raw shots right off of the camera. I'm in no way trying to hold the camera still. I'm bobbing all over the place and walking around in the park, and this thing's doing a really amazing job of taking out any shake. I did do some shooting in 4K as well. I won't show those shots on this one. I'm going to do another one just to show the 4K shots. When I was playing around with it in 4K, I'll do another video with that. These ones were just done in 1080. Now, I've used a Steadicam Junior before. To get shots like this with a Steadicam is a real challenge because the camera itself is everything's all is dealing with balances. Everything needs to be perfectly balanced, and if there's any wind or anything, or if you bump it, the camera's going to go out of control. This thing here, I'm just walking with this thing, and I'm letting the gyros and servos do all the work for me. It is really quite amazing how well this thing works with no effort whatsoever. If I turn my hand, it will also follow. So if I swing my wrist around, it will always try to keep itself straight. I go to full telephoto. Smartphone zooming has never been really that great. Now, of course, all these smartphones use digital zoom, so when you zoom in on something, you're going to really lose resolution. There's not much you can do about it. It's a fixed lens. You can zoom in digitally and just look at fewer pixels, but the picture is going to get grainy. So for shooting with a smartphone, you generally going to want to stay on a fairly wide shot. But it will hold the camera really still, even when you're zoomed in. One of these gimbals on a real camera, now that I've got one of these, I may have to buy one for my regular camera because this is pretty wild. What we notice is that the focus is opposite. If I can... I'm rolling that towards me, but it's coming into focus. I'm rolling it away from me and it's going out of focus. But if I release it, it'll go back into autofocus. It should. Auto. Okay, that's autofocus there. And now I can select my focus. And roll my focus back into autofocus. And now I'm back to the telephoto. Wide and telephoto control. I'm in the PF mode, which is for what's pan and follow, I think is. So if you're panning around, I just pan the entire camera around like this, and it will allow me to pan. And if I'm walking forward or backwards, the camera will follow wherever I'm looking. Wherever I've got the unit pointed, the camera will stay there. Got to watch for landmines where I am, even though people aren't supposed to have their dogs off leash. In this park, people do. Now, I have no experience using one of these right out of the box. I've done absolutely nothing. I downloaded the app, I paired it with my phone and the device, and I went right out to start shooting. So this is the first time I've used this device or any of these things. I used to shoot stuff on Steadicam way back, and as I said, they were always difficult to set up, difficult to use. This thing is a piece of cake. And I think it's doing a pretty darn good job of holding this camera, in this case a phone, pretty stable. One thing I did notice is that the software, it sets up the camera to record video to the internal memory, not my SD card. Which is fine because I got lots of memory in the camera, but it'd be nice to have that option where you can select to record on your SD card. I haven't found it in the software yet. Maybe it's buried, but I haven't found it yet. Of course, the only reason I say that is that I have a 128 gig SD card, and I can even go to a larger one. My camera's got 64 gigs internal memory, and normally I store my photos and video and stuff on the SD card, and it just makes it easy to, download files onto the computer. But this one here actually works out well because it uses a separate folder. It does not throw the video clips in with all of the other still photos and video that you're shooting on the camera. It actually creates a separate folder in the internal memory with just the clips that were recorded with the Smooth 4 gimbal. So when it comes time to download onto the computer, you just plug in the USB cord, open the folder, and copy the files to the hard drive and delete them from the phone. It makes it really simple to organize. Let's head down to the water. I'll try out the other mode here as well, the locked mode. In the locked mode, I can twist my hand all around and it holds the camera facing in the same direction, no matter even if I turn the actual unit. So where I point it, it stays. So for example, there's a barbecue pit here. Oops, I was at the end of my travel there. But there's a barbecue pit. And if I want to point the camera at that, I just have to point the camera where I want to look. And it'll hold the camera there. So I just turn it manually to where I want the camera to stay, and the camera will stay there. Even as I walk around this barbecue pit, the camera will keep facing the same direction. That's the difference between until you hit the limits of the motor, the travel of the motor, but the camera will stay pointing in the same direction no matter what I do with it until you hit the extreme end. If I go back to the pan follow mode, now if I turn the camera around, it will follow me. So if I point it at this barbecue pit and I walk around the barbecue pit, as I move around, you'll see that the camera will also follow it. Because it stays facing forward. So whatever way I point the controller, the camera will stay there. And if I rock the controller back and forth, as you see, the camera will pan back and forth to go back to center. So if you're following something, for example, you would want to be in this mode. Now to tilt up, I would just tilt the camera up manually, and it will hold at that level. And if I want to, I guess it is level. I'm on a hill. The image looks like it's going downhill. It's because it is. Let's take a walk down to the water. Take some pictures in the water. Then I'll kick my camera up into 4K and we'll do some shooting in 4K on this thing and really burn up the memory card. Oh, there's a bird. Wonder how close I can get to him. I guess not that close. So I'm just going to set up a shot here and walk along the water line. And of course, that's the problem with filming on your phone. Someone always has to send you a message. Rule 1 of filming with your smartphone, turn all your alerts off. I was going to say airplane mode, but then I realized in airplane mode, you have to turn off the Bluetooth, and well, that's how you're controlling the camera from the controller, so you can't use airplane mode. Back to lock mode. So now it doesn't matter what way I face the controller, the camera will remain pointing in the same direction. Now I mistakenly had the steady shot on my camera on the phone turned on as well. I had the stabilization turned on. I should have had it turned off, and that's what's giving it a bit of the jello effect. I think that if I had that turned off and was just using the gimbal for all my motion control, that you wouldn't get that bit of a jello effect because the camera itself is fighting against it. But hey, it looks great. I'm going to do some more stuff with this in 4K mode coming up shortly. Let's take it back to the studio and try out some of the other features. So I'm back with the unit, and I had off my camera recording when I was gone. I feel kind of silly. Anyway, I'm back with the unit now, and another feature that I didn't talk about, but on the control dial here, you can it's got 4 buttons on it. So besides being a dial to select your menu, you can select different modes, like bringing up, changing modes here. Get out of the menu. And this one here switches camera, so you can turn your selfie camera on and go back to your main camera. That's the left button. The right button here, that turns on, I think that's your selective focus, and if you press down, that becomes playback. So you can now view your clips and dial your clip in that you want to see. So if you've been shooting and you want to look at some of your clips, select the clip you wish to watch, press the OK button, and it'll play the clip back on your screen. So if you think you messed up, you can control the camera, control the playback right from the controller without actually having to touch your phone. And it'll just play the same clip over and over again until you stop it. And that's done by pressing which one is it? It's that one. Anyway, that's the function of the unit. When you're done with it, you turn off the power, hold the power button down, the unit shuts off, and then you can lock it back into position. And at this point, exit your camera. exit the app, and that'll turn off the camera as well. So to connect it to the device, unlock your gimbal, hit your ZY play button, it'll load the app, turn on the power to the device. Once the device is up and running, click connect to device, wait for it to find it, and then just tap the device. Once it's connected, it now turns on the camera and you've got full control. Fairly simple. To shut it down, just hold the power button. And once it's shut down, the servos will shut off and you can just lock it again and hit your cancel button to shut off the app. And then, of course, you can just remove the phone like that. You can use it with the tripod. When I'm filming, I was using it. I just hold it like that because you can actually, if you need to get a little higher reach, you can hang on to it by the feet. But leaving the little tripod on there is nice because it makes it just easy to set it down. It's going to hold the camera upright if you're not using it. And then when it's time to pack it away, just undo the tripod and everything can be put back into the carry case. Unscrew the little tripod, and the unit itself just sits in its carry case, just like that. That's the basic operation. The link to this is in the description, and thanks for watching. If you buy it from that link, that helps me out because this is an affiliate purchase, so the link on there helps me out, gets me more products to review for you. Thanks for watching.